So again, tonight's topic, secrets of history, the Silk Road. Secrets of history, the Silk Road. We went over part 1, okay, of that, which is, I think we're in chapter 2 now, I believe. Yes, I think we're in chapter 2, right? Is it chapter 2? I believe it's chapter 2. So this will be chapter 3 then. Okay, so secrets of history, the Silk Road. Let's open up with the book of Luke, chapter 12, verse 2. Luke 12, verse 2.
The book of Luke, chapter 12, verse 2. For there is nothing covered that shall not be revealed, neither hid that shall not be known.
Now this is Christ speaking. Read that again, verse 2.
The book of Luke, chapter 12, verse 2.
Come on.
For there is nothing covered that shall not be revealed, neither hid that shall not be known.
You see what Christ is teaching us? He says, there is nothing covered that shall not be revealed. That's what we're doing right now, revealing the secrets of history about us and about these nations. Okay? Neither hid that shall not be known, because the prophets are going to bring it forth. You understand? Give me that in Amos chapter 3, verse 7, real quick. The book of Amos, chapter 3, verse 7.
Amos, chapter 3, verse 7.
Come on.
Surely the Lord God will do nothing, but he revealeth his secrets unto his servants the prophets.
You see that thing? But it says, surely the Lord will do nothing, but he revealeth his secrets unto his servants, the prophets. The secrets about history. You understand? Because the secrets of history was revealed to our forefathers in the past. Likewise, today, the secrets of history, they are revealed to the forefathers that are back. You understand? To bring it forth that it shall be known. Read again, verse 7.
Amos, chapter 3, verse 7.
Mm-hmm.
Surely the Lord God will do nothing, but he revealeth his secrets unto his servants the prophets.
The Lord will do nothing, but he's waiting for us to seek, to search into the scriptures and to read historical books to bring out the scriptures to understand, so that our people may be able to understand what is written in the Bible and the things that are happening in the world. Because the reason why the nations are able to move the way that they do, they understand history about themselves and history about us. You understand? Watch this. Give me Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 7. Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 7, verse 17. Watch this.
Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 7,
verse 17. Come on.
Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 7, verse 17.
Mm-hmm.
For he hath given me certain knowledge of the things that are,
Read.
namely, to know how the world was made.
Come on.
And the operation of the elements.
So now these are things that was revealed unto our forefather King Solomon. You understand? Read on. Come on.
The beginning, ending, and the midst of times.
Come on.
And the midst of the times.
Read.
The alterations of the turning of the sun and the change of seasons.
So now you see what was revealed to our forefather? It says, for he given me certain knowledge of the things that are, namely, to know how the world was made from the time of Genesis and the operation of the elements, the components that are making every living creature that we see today. Okay? It says, at the beginning, ending, and the midst of the times. So King Solomon was shown the beginning of time, which is Genesis, the end of times, which is when the Lord returns, okay, and the midst of times, the Middle Ages. He was shown history. You understand? He was shown everything. He was shown the past, the future, and the current and present time. You understand? King Solomon saw all of that. So guess what? These things are revealed unto us. Just like it was revealed to our forefathers in the past, they are revealed unto us this day. Okay? Now go back to Amos, chapter 3, verse 7.
Amos, chapter 3, verse 7.
Read.
Surely the Lord God will do nothing, but he revealeth his secrets unto his servants the prophets.
He will reveal his secrets unto his servants the prophets. The secrets of the times. You understand? He will do that thing. The secrets of history. Okay? Watch this. Give me the book of Deuteronomy chapter 29, verse 29. Deuteronomy 29, verse 29. Read what you got.
The book of Deuteronomy, chapter 29, verse 29.
Come on.
The secret things belong unto the Lord our God,
Mm-hmm.
but those things which are revealed
But
belong
those
unto
things
us.
which are what?
But those things which are revealed.
But those things which are revealed. Do you remember what Christ said? He says, there's nothing hidden that will not be known. You understand? Will not be revealed. Guess what? But those things which are revealed belong to who? Come on.
Belong unto us and to our children forever,
Mm-hmm.
that we may do all the words of this law.
So in order for us to know the things that are revealed to us so that we can also teach them to our children, we must what? We must do all the words of this law. Watch this. Give me Psalms 119. Because our forefather King David, he talked about this thing. Psalms 119 verse 18.
Psalms chapter 119, verse 18.
Read.
Open thou mine eyes, that
Mhm.
I may behold wondrous things out of thy law.
You see that thing? Open thou mine eyes that I may behold wondrous things out of thy law. Because the wondrous things, they are hidden in God's commandments. God's laws is the keys to the mysteries that are written in this book. The secrets of wisdom, the secrets of history, they are locked in the laws of the Most High. When we keep God's commandments, the Lord will reveal those things unto us. He will make known those things unto us. Watch this. Give me the book of Proverbs chapter 1. Okay. Proverbs chapter 1. Proverbs chapter 1 and verse 23. Proverbs chapter 1 verse 23. Watch this.
Proverbs chapter 1, verse 23.
Come on.
Turn you at my reproof.
That's a commandment.
Behold,
that's a commandment right there. It says, turn you at my reproof. What is the reproof of the Lord? The commandments. And in those commandments, secret things are hidden in there. Wondrous things are hidden in there. Read. Come on.
behold, I will pour out my spirit unto you.
Mm-hmm.
I will make known my words unto you.
You see what the Lord is saying? He says, I will pour out my spirit unto you. I will make known my words unto you. Meaning the secrets of wisdom, the Lord says, I'm going to make them known unto you. The things that are hidden, I'm going to reveal them unto my servants, the prophets. That is what's going on right now. Okay, read that again. Verse 23.
Proverbs chapter 1, verse 23.
Mm-hmm.
Turn you at my reproof.
Come on.
Behold, I will pour out my spirit unto you.
Come on.
I will make known my words unto you.
I will make known my words unto you. Watch this. Give me that in Second Maccabees now. Second Maccabees chapter, let me see. Second Maccabees chapter 2. Second Maccabees chapter 2 verse 23.
Second Maccabees chapter 2, verse 23.
Come on.
All these things I say, being declared by Jason of Cyrene in 5 books, we will essay to abridge in 1 volume.
So now Jason of Cyrene, Cyrene is Libya. Okay. It says in 5 books we will essay to abridge them in 1 volume. We will shorten them in 1 volume. Watch this. Go ahead.
For considering the infinite number and the difficulty which they find that desire to look into the narrations of the story.
Into the
For
what?
into the narrations of the story.
Into the narrations of the story, into the secrets of history. You understand? It says, for considering the infinite number, okay, and the difficulty which they find that desire to look into the narrations of the story, the secrets of history. You understand? Go ahead.
For the variety of the matter.
For the variety of the matter, because there's different historical information that has been hidden from us. You understand? That's why the Apocrypha was taken out of the Bible, so we don't understand the New Testament. You understand what the Apostle Paul will be speaking about. But we have those books now. You understand? All praise to the Most High for that. Next verse. Come on.
We have been careful that they that will read may have delight.
They that will read. Hold on. They that will read may have what?
that they that will read may have delight.
They that will read may have delight. Some brothers don't want to read nothing. You understand? They don't want to read nothing. They like just watching videos. They don't want to sit down and study. Okay, read.
And that they that are desirous to commit to memory might have ease.
You see that thing? If you desire to commit these things, these secrets of history to memory, you're going to have ease when you study. You understand? That's why these classes are put together so you can sit down and study. Read.
And that all into whose hands it comes might have profit.
You see that thing? So it comes into your hand, it must profit you. You understand? It must profit you. That is what the Lord is teaching us right here. Okay? Go back to Matthew now, chapter 12, verse 2 again. Luke 12, I'm sorry. Luke 12, verse 2 again.
The book of Luke, chapter 12, verse 2.
Mm-hmm.
For there is nothing covered that shall not be revealed,
Read.
neither hid that shall not be known.
Neither he that shall not be known. Okay? That's why the Lord has poured out his spirit upon his servants, the prophets, to bring these things out. Go ahead.
Therefore, whatsoever ye have spoken in darkness shall be heard in the light.
Mm-hmm.
And that which ye have spoken in the ear in closets shall be proclaimed upon the housetops.
You see what he's saying? It says, whatsoever he has spoken in darkness shall be heard in the light. Because who's going to bring it out? The prophets will bring it out. Okay? It says, that which is spoken in the ear in closets shall be proclaimed upon the housetops, the street corners, where the prophets go to teach the gospel of Christ. You understand? Watch this. Give me the book of Luke chapter 8, verse 16. Luke 8, verse 16.
Luke chapter 8, verse 16.
Read.
No man, when he hath lighted a candle, covereth it with a vessel, or putteth it under a bed,
Read.
but setteth it on a candlestick, that they which enter in may see the light.
You see what he's saying? So Christ is saying you cannot learn this and not teach it to your nation. You must learn because you're not doing it for yourself only, but for all those that seek learning. Watch this. Give me that in Sirach 33. Ecclesiasticus 33, verse 17.
Ecclesiastes chapter 33, verse 17.
Read.
Consider that I labored not for myself only, but for all them that seek learning.
You see what he's saying? Consider that I labor not for myself only, but for all them that seek learning. So when you don't study, you understand? You don't go over your chapters, you don't study, you hate your people. Let me say that again in case I started. When you don't study, you make excuses why you don't study, you hate your own nation. You understand? You are a waste of time. Why? Because you're supposed to study because you understand that this knowledge right here, your nation needs it so that they can be brought into the fold so you can get up out here and go home. Okay? So go back to where was that? Luke chapter 8, verse 16 again.
Luke chapter 8, verse 16.
Read.
No man, when he hath lighted a candle, covereth it with a vessel.
You see that thing? You cannot light a candle, you cover it with a vessel. So what's the point? You understand? What would be the point of it then? Watch this. Give me the book of Ecclesiasticus. I believe it's 41. Let me see. Ecclesiasticus chapter 41 and verse... Yeah, Ecclesiasticus 41 verse 15. Sirach 41 verse 15. Read that.
Ecclesiastes chapter 41, verse 15.
Read.
A man that hideth his foolishness is better than a man that hideth his wisdom.
You see what the Bible is saying? A man that hideth his foolishness is better than a man that hideth his wisdom. Because you're not supposed to hide the wisdom that the Lord gave you because it don't belong to you. It's for the nation of Israel. For all those that are desirous to learn. You understand? Read that again.
Ecclesiastes chapter 41, verse 15.
Read.
A man that hideth his foolishness is better than a man that hideth his wisdom.
You see that thing? That's why King Solomon said, give me that in Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 7. Might be verse 11 somewhere there. Let me see. Wisdom of Solomon chapter 7. Wisdom of Solomon chapter 7 and verse 13. Yeah, verse 13.
Excuse me. Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 7, verse 13.
Come on.
I learn diligently and do communicate her liberally.
Mm-hmm.
I do not hide her riches.
You see what he's saying? He says, I learn diligently, meaning what? This brother, this sister, they study. They don't play games, they study. Okay? Very few brothers in the congregation that I know, they study. They don't play games. Okay? It says, I learn diligently and do communicate her liberally, freely. I do not hide her riches. You see that thing? That's what Christ is teaching us here. By the way, this is a commandment. Okay? This is a law. Go back to Matthew. Go back to Luke 8, verse 16 again.
Luke chapter 8, verse 16.
Read.
No man, when he hath lighted a candle, covereth it with a vessel, or putteth it under a bed, but setteth it on a candlestick.
On a
that
candlestick. So the candlestick is the menorah. You understand? You put it on the candlestick. Read on.
That they which enter in may see the light.
They that we may enter in, those that enter into the house, meaning what? The house of Israel, may see the light. What is the light? Wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. The laws of God, according to Proverbs 6:23. Go ahead. Next verse.
For nothing is secret that shall not be made manifest, neither anything hid that shall not be known and come abroad.
You see what Christ is saying? He's repeating himself over and over. Why? Because he understood that Israel is slow. You understand? We don't get it. You understand? We're dense. So that's why he keeps repeating himself over and over so we can get it. Read on.
Take heed therefore how ye hear.
You see what he's saying? He says, take heed therefore how ye hear. You understand? The things that you are listening to, you must take heed therefore. Read.
For whosoever hath, to him shall be given. And whosoever hath not, from him shall be taken even that which he seemeth to have.
Now that's a heavy scripture right there. You see what Christ is saying? It says, take heed therefore how ye hear. Because guess what? You're supposed to come and learn. And how do you learn? You sit down, you study. Why? Because listen to what he says. It says, for whosoever hath, to him shall be given. Meaning what? If you have the understanding, you study, you apply, you seek counsel, you ask questions. Then he says, to him shall be given. He says, I'm going to give you more. Through what? Through the leaders that have ordained over you. Watch this. And it says, and whosoever hath not, meaning what? You hear, but you don't apply. You receive, but he don't do nothing for you. Okay? It says, from him shall be taken even that which he seemeth to have. Meaning, whatever you little you have, the Lord says, I'm going to take it away from you. Why? Because you don't study because you want to teach your nation, or you don't study at all because you are lazy. You don't care about your nation. You don't care about your people. You don't understand the mission. No, let me rephrase that. You don't care about the mission. Okay? So Christ says, guess what? I'm going to take it from you. You understand? Watch this. Give me the book of Luke 21:24 now. Because remember, the nation of Israel, our history, you see through the slavery, the slavery that we've been under. You understand? From the time of Egypt unto this day. One slavery after another. Okay? So there's a lot of rich history that is involved in there. A lot of it is hidden so that the nations have hidden this history from us so we don't know it. Because we use it, it helps us in order for us to teach our people. You understand? Yeah, the Bible first and foremost, don't get it twisted. Luke 21 verse 24.
Luke chapter 21 verse 24.
Come on.
And they shall fall by the edge of the sword.
They shall what?
And they shall fall by the edge of the sword.
So Christ is talking to the Israelites, our forefathers. He said, listen, you shall fall by the edge of the sword, by the Romans. Go ahead.
And shall be led away captive into all nations.
We are going to be led away captives. We're going to be slaves into all nations. We are going to be taken into slavery into all nations. That's what he's saying. Read.
And Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles, until the times of the Gentiles be fulfilled.
You see what he's saying? And Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles. Meaning what? Our homeland, we are going to be rooted out of our homeland. Okay, that's what he's saying. Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles. Amalek, you understand? Ishmael is over there. Until the times of the Gentiles be fulfilled. Give me that in Deuteronomy 4, verse 27. Okay. Deuteronomy chapter 4, verse 27. You know what? Give me Isaiah 22, verse 17. Isaiah 22, verse 17. He says, we shall be led away captive into all nations. Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles. Isaiah 22, verse 17. Read that.
Isaiah chapter 22, verse 17.
Come on.
Behold, the Lord will carry thee away with the mighty captivity, and will surely cover thee.
The Lord will cover us with the mighty captivity. Okay, he's going to carry us away with a mighty captivity. When it says mighty captivity, meaning what? The slavery that will happen to us, the children of Israel, is going to be the greatest of all of them upon this earth, that nobody will ignore. Everybody, when you talk about slavery, the first people that will pop on your mind is who? The blacks, the Hispanics, the Native American Indians. Okay, come on.
He will surely violently turn and toss thee like a ball into a large country.
You see that thing? Like a ball into a large country. He will toss and turn us at the sea, on the ships. You understand? Like a ball into a large country, the place of our slavery. Read.
There shalt thou die.
We shall die spiritually. Hold on. He says there, when we get to the lands of our captivity, we're going to die. Physically, spiritually, mentally. You understand? Read.
And there the chariots of thy glory shall be the shame of thy Lord's house.
You see what he's saying? He says, the chariot of our glory shall be the shame of the Lord's house. Meaning what? Our status, we are going to be at a low estate. And that's where we are now, at a low estate. You understand? We are not a praise and a glory in the earth. Not yet. That's what the Lord is doing right now. So that he can make Jerusalem a praise and a name in the earth. That all the nations will know we are Israel. You understand? That's what the Lord is doing right now. Watch this. Give me the book of Jeremiah 3, verse 2. Jeremiah chapter 3 and verse 2.
Jeremiah chapter 3, verse 2. Lift up thine eyes unto the high places, and see where thou hast been lying with.
Where thou hast been lying with. The word lion means corrupted. Okay, and see how you have been corrupted, the Lord is saying. Go ahead.
In the ways hast thou sat for them, as the Arabian in the wilderness.
As the Arabian in the wilderness. He says, we sat for the Arabians in the wilderness. How did we sit for them? We were their slaves. You understand? The Arabs put us in slavery. And they taught us what? They taught us Islam. That's why it says, in the way hast thou sat for them. When you're sitting for somebody, what are they doing? They are teaching you. They are indoctrinating you. They were indoctrinating our people into Islam. Go ahead.
And thou hast polluted the land with thy whoredoms and with thy wickedness.
You see that thing? Because we polluted the land with our whoredoms and with our wickedness. You understand? Watch this. Give me Isaiah 49, verse 12. Because I'm mentioning the Arabs for a reason. Okay? Now give me Isaiah 49, verse 12 now.
Isaiah chapter 49, verse 12.
Read.
Behold, these shall come from far, and lo, these from the north and from the west, and these from the land of Sinim.
And these from the land of Sinim. It's talk about the children of Israel. If you read verse 3. Read verse 3 again.
Isaiah chapter 49, verse 3.
Come on.
And said unto me, thou art my servant, O Israel, in whom I will be glorified.
You see what he's saying? In Israel, the Lord will be glorified in Israel, because once we hear this truth, we're going to get our minds right. We're going to get our act together, repent, keep God's commandments. So now jump down to verse 12. So the subject matter is about Israel. Read.
Verse 12. Behold, these shall come from far, and lo, these from the north and from the west, and these from the land of Sinim.
You see that thing? From the north and from the west, these from the land of Sinim. Sinim is the biblical name for China. Okay, Sinem, China. So the Arabs and the Chinese were instrumental in putting us into slavery. You understand? And the sub-Sahara slave trade. The Chinese and the Arabs were instrumental in selling us in. We were sold to China, India. You understand? Basically to the east, North and Southern Korea, and all of that. So they was involved in that. In Persia, okay, we were sold all over the east by the Arabs and the Chinese. They were both involved in this thing. Okay, watch this. Let me open up 1 second. 1 second. I'm gonna share my screen real quick. I'm gonna share my screen. Give me 1 second. Okay. Because we've already gone over a lot of the stuff, a lot of the scriptures regarding Moab and all of that. So I'm gonna be dealing with some historical books now. Okay, so just pay close attention. Let me share my screen. Okay, so read the title of the book if you can see my screen.
The Silk Roads, A New History of the World by Peter Frankopan.
Frankopan. Okay. So now, this is page 5. Okay, read the highlighted part in yellow. Read that.
The Chinese had already developed a concept
Huaxia, of a concept of Huaxia, meaning how to conquer. Read on.
had already developed a concept of Huaxia, representing the civilized world, set against the challenges of the peoples from the steppes.
So the steeps. So it says, so the Chinese, they built the Great Wall of China, not them particularly, our people built the Great Wall of China because they were protecting themselves against the steeps. So we're going to find out who the steeps are. Go ahead.
An incentive building program expanded a network of fortifications into what became known as the Great Wall of China.
Go ahead.
And were driven by the same principle as that adopted by Alexander. Expansion without defense was useless.
Because remember what I want to just to catch you up. What is happening is that when Alexander was conquering and all of that in 330, because the dates are different, they are always, but they are somewhat close by. Some they say 333 BC, some say 336 BC, some say 331 BC, but it's around that time. When Alexander was conquering and all of that, you had the Chinese also on the conquest to conquer. You understand? So they adopted many of the things that Alexander was doing. Because after Alexander died, when Alexander was conquering, the major empire on earth was Persia. Okay? Persia was on top of the earth. And Alexander wanted to conquer the Persians and all of that. So now the Chinese, what was happening is that around those times, the Chinese also, they had an empire going. You understand? So a lot of the times when we explain the historical stuff, the captivities, we don't actually mentioning like China and all, because during those times, you understand, there was a lot of Moab was still there, okay? Ammon was still there. So those empires were still there, but they were not the major empires on earth at those times, okay? So now let's deal with the steeps, okay? Watch this. Give me 1 second. We're going to deal with the steeps. Okay, let me share my screen. Okay, so read that. Eurasian steep.
Eurasian steep on Wikipedia.
Come on.
The Eurasian, also called the Great Steep or the Steeps, is the vast steep ecoregion of Eurasia in the temperate grasslands, savannas, and shrublands biome.
Keep going.
It stretches through Hungary, Bulgaria, Romania, Moldova, Ukraine, Western Russia, Siberia, Kazakhstan, Xinjiang,
Xinjiang. Go ahead.
Mongolia, and Manchuria,
Manchuria. Come on.
with one major exclave, the Pannonian Steppe, or Puzda,
Costa.
located mostly in Hungary.
So now you see on the map, right? You see this this evergreen. This green is like it's more darker green, like it's moving from. You see on the south of the so-called Middle East. There's this green coded color that goes across. You understand? It goes across the continent right here because this is Asia. All right. India is down there to the south. That's the Indian Ocean. That's China towards the east and so forth. So that green field right there that you see, that's Eurasia right there. Okay. That's the steppe. Okay. Keep going. Read. Since the Paleolithic age, read that.
Since the Paleolithic age, the steep route has connected Central Europe, Eastern Europe, Western Asia, Central Asia, Eastern Asia, and Southern Asia economically, politically, and culturally through overland trade routes.
So now what you want to notice is that the steppe, there was actually sitting at the very center where to connect what? Where eventually will be the Silk Road. You understand? Because the Silk Road was able to connect major cities to do trade. You understand? But the steppe, the Eurasians were there to do what? They were like a stumbling block to China. Okay? So now what the Chinese ended up doing, they started to deal with the steppe, the Eurasians, to a point where they ended up pushing them out of the what will not today known as the Silk Road. Okay, go ahead.
The steep route is a predecessor not only of the Silk Road, which developed during antiquity and the Middle Ages, but also of the Eurasian land bridge in the modern era.
Okay, read on.
It has been home to nomadic empires and many large tribal.
Wait. It has been what?
It has been home to nomadic empires.
So now, so you see, the Eurasian land bridge has been home to nomadic empires. He's going to explain what he means by that. Keep going.
And many large tribal confederations and ancient states throughout history, such as
the Xiongnu. Come on.
Scythia. Cimmeria.
Hold on. Scythia. You see that part right there? You see the Xiongnu and Scythia. You see the Xiongnu, that's where black people were dwelling in. They're also called Gansu or Kansu. Scythia, give me Colossians 3 verse 11 real quick. Colossians chapter 3 verse 11. Watch this. Colossians 3 verse 11. Read that. Brother Haggai, are you still with us?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me, sir?
Yeah, I can hear you. Okay. Read Colossians 3 verse 11.
Colossians chapter 3 verse 11. Where there is neither Greek nor Jew, circumcision nor uncircumcision, barbarian, Scythian.
You see that? Where there is neither Jew nor, hold on, where there is neither Jew nor Greek, okay, circumcision nor uncircumcision, barbarian, Scythian. So these are Israelites scattered in these lands. They were called Scythians, okay? The Scythians is actually the Vikings. The Scythians is the Vikings that was in Scandinavia, okay? Those are forefathers. Read that part again, verse 11.
Colossians chapter 3 verse 11.
Read.
Where there is neither Greek nor Jew, circumcision nor uncircumcision, barbarian, Scythian, bond nor free, but Christ is all and in all.
You see that thing? Christ is all and in all. In all who? The children of Israel. Remember, The Colossians is the children of Israel scattered in Colossae, which is where? Greece. You understand? This is Greece. Then you've got Eastern Europe and all of that, those areas around there, all the way up to into what? Into the east. So when it says nomadic tribes, we were scattered all over those areas. Remember what we read in Luke 21:24. It says, we shall be led away captives into all nations. You understand? So these nomadic tribes, there was a lot of Israelites in those lands. Okay, read the article on Wikipedia again. It has been home to nomadic empires. Read that.
It has been home to nomadic empires and many large tribal confederations and the ancient states throughout history, such as the Xiongnu, Scythia, Cimmeria, Sarmatia, Punic Empire, Chorasmia, Transoxiana, Sogdiana, Qianbei, Mongol Empire, and
Gotek. Gotek is the Turks. Is some of the remnants of the Turks. So, but what I want to show you, don't worry about these complicated names. What I want to show you, these nomadic empires here, these were Israelites, but the majority was not Israel. The remnant was Israel in these lands. You understand? So now, when the Eurasian steppe was made mostly, you know, the majority of the people in the Eurasian steppe, those were Israelites. Those are the nomadic tribes that are mentioned here. You understand? And we were giving China a problem. Remember, it says during what? It says which developed during antiquity and the Middle Ages. Who was ruling during the Middle Ages? We was ruling during the Middle Ages. The mist of times, like we read in Wisdom of Solomon chapter 7. Okay? Now, watch this. Let's go back now. Let me share my screen 1 second. Okay, read that highlighted part again. The Chinese had already.
The Chinese had already developed a concept of huaxia, representing the civilized world, set against.
Come on.
Set against the challenges of the people from the steppes.
The steppes, that's Eurasia. And that's the nomadic. Hold on. The steppes is Eurasia. The nomadic empires, including Scythians and so forth. Go ahead.
An intensive building program expanded a network of fortifications into what became known as the Great Wall of China, and were driven by the same principle as that developed by Alexander. Expansion without defense was useless.
So now what you want to notice is that China was doing an expansion, but guess what? They needed to fortify their cities so that they do not, the steppes or Eurasians do not invade them. Now watch this. Let's deal with the Great Wall of China just for a second. Okay. We're going to deal with the Great Wall of China. Now watch this. Let me share my screen. Okay, read that.
The Great Wall of China on Wikipedia.
Mm-hmm.
The Great Wall of China is a series of fortifications that were built across the historical northern borders of ancient Chinese states and imperial China as protection against various nomadic groups from the Eurasian steppe.
You see that thing? So they built this thing as protection against what? Various nomadic groups from the Eurasian steppe. Watch this. Go ahead.
Several walls were built from as early as the 7th century BC.
As the what?
From as early as the 7th century BC.
So it says as early as from the 7th century BC. So what was going on? Well, because there's something major that happened during this time. 7th century, that's 600. 651, the 7th century. Okay, this is 7th century BC, not AD. So which means that this is what? 7th century, this is 600 BC. You see when the Great Wall of China was started? As early as 600. So during the 606, who was ruling during 606? Babylon. Okay. Babylon was ruling in 606 BC. In 539 BC, who took over? Anybody remember? Brother Haggai, who took over?
So after
In
Babylon
539
came the
BC.
Persians.
Correct. So Persia took over in 539 BC. So notice when the Great Wall of China was built, it says the several walls were built from as early as the 7th century BC, 600. Okay, 600 BC. So now you need to think about it and say, okay, so during this time, as early as the 600 BC, the Great Wall of China began to be built. But think about it now. During the 600, Babylon was in power, okay? The Babylonians. So this is letting you know that although Babylon was a major empire during its time, guess what was going on at the same time? China also, guess what China was doing? China also, it was constructing its what? It was constructing its empire to expand, okay? But it's not highlighted per se because during this time, Babylon was the major empire on earth, which is part of the empires that are mentioned in the book of Daniel. You understand? Read that part again, several walls, read that.
Several walls were built from as early as the 7th century BC, with selective stretches later joined together by Qin Shi Huang.
Come on.
In 2020 to 206 BC.
In 220 to 206. 220 to 206 BC. Go ahead.
The first emperor of China.
The first emperor of China from 220 to 206 BC. Because you can see it's 220 and we're counting down in BC to 206 BC. Now watch this. Let me show you something. Okay, we're going to go back to the book. Yes. Okay, read this.
The linking up of the steeps into an interlocking and interconnecting world was accelerated by the growing ambitions of China.
He says was accelerated by the growth. You see, he says the interlocking and interconnecting world was accelerated by the growing ambitions of China. Remember, China wanted to expand, but the steeps was giving them problems. Okay, go ahead.
Under the Han Dynasty.
The Han Dynasty.
From 206 BC to AD 2020.
Or 220.
To AD 220.
Read.
Waves of expansion had pushed frontiers even further, eventually reaching a province then called Shivu or Western Regions, but today known as Xinjiang, New Frontier Land.
That's the land we was looking at. Read.
This lay beyond the Gansu Corridor, a route 600 miles long, linking the Chinese interior with the oasis city of Dunhuang, a crossroads on the edge of the Taklamakan Desert.
The Taklamakan Desert. Now watch this. Let me show you the map of the Silk Road so you can see what this is talking about. Okay, 1 second. What you're looking at here is, you see that's the Silk Road. It extended from the Roman Empire. That's when we deal with the Roman Empire. I'll touch on that. Okay, do you see how it connects? That's Arabia right there. That's Damascus. Okay, you've got Persia. You've got Pamis. You will see it also when we read in the book. You see Dan Huang right there. Himalayas, China. So these areas right here, these you see this red line that you see here. This was the major trade route of the Silk Road. Okay, that's what we was looking at. And the people that were creating a lot of obstacle for China's expansion was the Eurasian tribes. Okay, those nomadic empires that we was reading about. Okay. Okay, so now let's go back. The highlighted part, linking up.
The linking up of the steeps into an interlocking and interconnecting world was accelerated by the growing ambitions of China. Under the Han Dynasty, from 206 BC to AD 220, waves of expansion had pushed frontiers even further, eventually reaching a province then called the Shivu or Western regions, but today known as Xinjiang or New Frontierland. This lay beyond the Gansu Corridor, a route 600 miles long, linking the Chinese interior with the oasis city of Dunhuang.
You see that thing? So what?
Crossroads.
Hold on. What we look, the map that you just saw, that's the 600-mile long linking Chinese interior with the oasis city. You see, Dunhuang is right there towards the end on the far east. Okay, so that's what he's talking about. So this Gansu corridor, it starts from after Rome. You understand? And from the far east, you start from the beginning of let's say the Caspian Sea. You go all the way up to the east, which will eventually reach Dunhuang. Okay, keep going.
A crossroads of the edge of the Taklamakan Desert.
Read.
At this point, there was a choice of a northern or southern route, both of which could be treacherous, which converged at Kashgar, itself set at the junction point of the Himalayas, the Parmi Mountains.
The Parmi Mountains. So the Parmi Mountains is next to Dunhuang. Go ahead.
The Tin Shan Range and the Hindu Kush.
The Hindu Kush, that's what? That's North India. Okay. All of those, that area right there, that area was mainly Buddhism. Buddhism was the dominant religion in those areas. You understand? From central China all the way down to India and all the way up. You understand? All the way up towards the northwest. The dominant religion in those areas was Buddhism. Okay? Watch this. Let's go to yes, read that part now. We're still going to deal mostly with China's expansion, okay, until we get to the construction of the Silk Road. So read that. This expansion of China's horizon, read that.
This expansion of China's horizons linked Asia together. These networks had hitherto been blocked by the
Huanzi,
and above all, the Xiongnu, nomadic tribes who, like the Scythians in Central Asia, were a source of constant concern, but were also important trading partners for livestock.
You see that thing? So these Eurasian, the Scythians, which is what the Apostle Paul was talking about, Scythians, barbarians, that's whenever we invaded them or whenever they found us in those lands, what was they doing? They were saying, no, these are barbarians and so forth. That's what the Apostle Paul was saying, barbarians, Scythians. Okay, read.
Han authors wrote in the 2nd century BC of tens of thousands of head of cattle being bought from the peoples of the steppes.
The steppes. So the steppes, the Eurasian nomadic empires, they had a lot of cattle, just like Gad and Reuben. Go ahead.
But it was Chinese demand for horses that was all but insatiable.
The Chinese, they were
Fueled,
interested. Hold on. The Chinese were interested in horses. Okay, come on.
fueled by the need to keep an effective military force on standby to maintain internal order within China
Read.
and to be able to respond to attacks and raids by the Xiongnu or other tribes.
So the Xiongnu is talking about the Kanzu, which is also called the what? The Eurasian nomadic empires. Read on. Or Eurasian nomadic tribes. Come on.
Horses from the western region of Xinjiang were highly prized and could make fortunes for tribal chieftains.
Read.
On one occasion, the UAZ leader traded horses for a large consignment of goods that he then sold onto others, making 10 times his investment.
Okay? So he got the horses and he resold them at the higher price. Read on.
The most famous and valuable mounts were bred in the Fergana Valley, to the far side of the spectacular Pami mountain range that
So the Pami
straddles
Mountains. So the Pami Mountains is next to Dan Huang. Read on.
what is now eastern Tajikistan
Tajikistan. Go ahead.
and northeastern Afghanistan.
And northeastern Afghanistan. So guess what? So not only was China's expansion only around the Silk Road to push the nomadic tribes out, but it was also making deals with what? Tajikistan, and which is called today known as Afghanistan. So guess what? There was a lot of trade deals going on with the Arabic tribes, which is the Ishmaelites and Moab. Okay, keep going.
Much admired for their strength, they are described by Chinese writers as being sired by dragons and are referred to as the
Hangshuma.
Hangshuma or sweating blood.
Or sweating blood, meaning these horses were sweating blood, because that's what they was experiencing during what? During warfare and in transit. Go ahead.
The result of the distinctive red perspiration that was caused either by a local parasite or the horses having unusually thin skin and therefore being prone to blood vessels bursting during exertion.
Read.
Some particularly fine specimens became celebrities in their own right.
Meaning the horses.
The subject of poems, sculpture, and pictures, frequently referred to as Tianma, heavenly or celestial horses.
Go ahead.
Some were even taken with their owner to the next life. One emperor was buried alongside 80 of his favorite steeds, their burial place guarded by the statues of 2 stallions and a terracotta warrior.
So you ever notice if you go to Pretoria, you see Pretoria sitting on a horse and all of that, because some of them, they worship these horses. That's what you are seeing here. Says the Chinese, when they bought the horses from the Eurasian tribes, guess what? They said these are heavenly or celestial body horses. That's what they call them. You understand? When they died, they were buried with them. Okay, go ahead.
Relations with the Xiongnu, who held sway across the steppes of Mongolia and across the grasslands of China's north, were not always easy. Contemporary historians wrote of the tribe as barbaric.
You see that thing? So the historians, they wrote of these tribes as barbaric. Go back to Colossians 3, verse 11 again.
Colossians chapter 3 verse 11,
Mhm.
where there is neither Greek nor Jew, circumcision nor uncircumcision, barbarian, Scythian, bond nor
Barbarian.
free,
So barbarian Scythians, these were nomadic tribes, Israelites in those lands. Go ahead.
bond nor free, but Christ is all and in all.
So go back to the article, or rather the book. Contemporary
Con-
historians.
Contemporary historians wrote of the tribe as barbaric,
Mhm.
willing to eat raw meat and drink blood. Truly, said one writer, they are a people who have been abandoned by heaven.
Boom. You see that thing? He's telling you these are Israelites. It says they are a people who have been abandoned by heaven. Meaning one, the Lord is not with them no more. They are a people who have been abandoned by heaven. Remember, he says, they were willing to eat raw meat and drink blood. Watch this. Give me the book of Acts. Okay, give me the book of Acts chapter 21. Acts chapter 21 and verse... Acts 21 and verse... Let's start at verse 20. Acts 21 verse 20.
Acts chapter 21 verse 20.
Mhm.
And when they heard it, they glorified the Lord and said
Read.
unto him, Thou seest, brother, how many thousands of Jews that are which believe, and they are all zealous of the law.
So now, but watch this. You know what? Start at verse 19. Start at verse 19 so we can understand what Luke, what is being explained here. Read that.
Acts chapter 21 verse 19.
Mhm.
And when he had saluted them, he declared particularly what things of God had wrought among the Gentiles by his ministry.
You see that part right there? It says, read that part again. Read verse 19 once again.
Acts chapter 21 verse 19.
Read.
And when he had saluted them, he declared particularly what things God had wrought among the Gentiles by his ministry.
What the Lord had done among the Gentiles by his ministry. You see what they was called, these Jews? They were called Gentiles because they were living among the Gentiles, living according to the Gentiles. Okay, come on. Verse 21.
Verse 21. And they
No,
are
no, verse 20.
informed of thee.
Verse 20, I'm sorry, verse 20.
Verse 20. And when they heard it, they glorified the Lord and said unto him, Thou seest, brother, how many thousands of Jews there are which believe, and they are all zealous of the law.
So the Jews which are among the Gentiles in verse 19. So it says, had wrought among the Gentiles by his ministry. They are called the Jews. They believed because they had the glorious gospel of Christ. Keep going.
And they are informed of thee, that thou teachest all the Jews which are among the Gentiles to forsake Moses.
You see that thing?
Say,
It says, hold on. It says, because they are talking to the apostle Paul now. It says, according to the Jews in Jerusalem, was saying the apostle Paul is commanding all the Jews to forsake Moses. That's not what the apostle Paul was teaching. The apostle Paul was bringing people to Christ. You understand? So he wasn't saying forsake Moses. He wasn't saying that. But the key here it says, and they are informed of thee that thou teachest all the Jews which are among the Gentiles. The Jews which are among the Gentiles, scattered Israelites, called barbarians, Scythians, and so forth. Read.
saying that they ought not to circumcise their children, neither to walk after their customs.
You see that thing? So what we are reading here is that the Jews that were among the Gentiles, they were living according to Gentile customs. You understand? There's another one. Jump down to verse 25. Watch this. Because we read, it says, these barbarians, because that's what they call them, these Scythians, these Eurasic tribes, this is what the Apostle Paul was commanded to teach. Watch this. Read verse 25 now.
Verse 25. As touching the Gentiles which believe, we have written and concluded that they observe no such thing, save only that they keep themselves from the things offered to idols,
You see
and
that
from
thing?
blood.
It says these Jews that are among the Gentiles, they must what? They must keep themselves from things offered to idols, meaning they was into idolatry, okay? And from blood. Because what was they doing? They were drinking blood. You understand? That's what they was doing. That's what we just read in the book. Okay? It says contemporary historians wrote of the tribes as barbaric, willing to eat raw meat and drink blood. You see that? Read that part again.
Acts chapter 21, verse 25.
Read.
As touching the Gentiles which believe,
Read.
we have written and concluded that they observe no such thing, save only that they keep themselves from things offered to idols, and from blood, and from strangled,
And
and
from
from
what?
fornication, and from strangled.
So now it says they must abstain from blood and things that are strangled. Because guess what they did? They ate meat that was strangled. Because if you kill an animal like that, guess what? Where does the blood go? The blood is in the animal, so it bleeds inside the meat. So you can't eat it. There was eating that. That's why they were called barbaric. You understand? These were Eurasic tribes. These were Israelites in these lands. Okay? So that's what we're reading here. He says, make sure that they must abstain from what? Idols, from blood, and from strangled, and from fornication. You understand? Let's go back to the book now. Contemporary historians, read that part again. Actually, you know what? Wait. Keep going. Read verse 26.
Verse 26. Then Paul took the men, and the next day, purifying himself with them, entered into the temple to signify the accomplishment of the days of purification, until that the offering should be offered for every one of them.
Because the Apostle Paul was commanded to do what? To take the vow of the Nazarite, okay, to show that he's not commanding the Jews to forsake Moses, because they were still weak in the faith. They needed to be what? To believe on Christ now, no longer under the yoke of bondage that we was unable to keep or maintain, which is the old covenant of animal sacrifice. Read on.
And when the 7 days were almost ended, the Jews which were of Asia, when they saw him in the temple, stood up all the people and laid hands on him.
Meaning what? They beat the Apostle Paul. But what I want to show you, it says, and when the 7 days were almost ended, the vow of the Nazarites, the Jews which were of Asia, you see, they were coming from these lands. Asia, spoke about Asia Minor. That's Greece. You understand? Remember, during this time, these empires, they were all operating at the same time period, but the major ones that were explained is Babylon, Persia, Greece, Rome. You understand? Assyria, Egypt, and so forth. But it doesn't mean that there were not other empires that were in existence. You understand? Because remember what Christ said. He says we would be scattered among all these nations. So during the time when Babylon was ruling, but remember when Nebuchadnezzar came into power, he took over the empires that was under the empires that were controlled by the Assyrians. You understand? So Israel were scattered in those lands. So it didn't mean that all the people that now they came into Babylon. No, they were remote control. They set up officers in those lands of their people to look after the captives and the slaves, just like today. You understand? America. We have Joe Biden in the US, Babylon the Great, but they control all the earth because they've got presidents in South Africa, Cyril Ramaphosa. He's been remote controlled, just like that. So don't be surprised when you see that now we are talking about Eurasic empires and all of that, and they are spread across the east, because we would be scattered among these lands. You understand? And I'm just reading what Christ said, but guess what? The curses would be what? The curses would be reoccurring from the time of Egypt unto this day. The curses would be reoccurring like a what? Like a ring. Remember what we went over in 2nd Esdras, a couple of classes back, that the curses will be reoccurring like a what? Like like a circle on a ring. Okay, so don't be confused. Okay, contemporary historians, let's pick it up from there.
Contemporary historians wrote of the tribes as barbaric, willing to eat raw meat and drink blood.
Read.
Truly, said one writer, they are a people who have been abandoned by heaven.
They are a people who have been abandoned by heaven because they knew who we were. They knew that these are Israelites. We are abandoned by heaven. The Most High God has abandoned us. Why? Because we went and worshiped other gods. Watch this. Give me the book of First Kings, okay? Give me First Kings chapter 9. First Kings chapter 9 and verse 6. First Kings 9 verse 6. Watch this.
First Kings chapter 9 verse 6.
Mm-hmm.
But if ye should at all turn from following me,
I need you to put
ye
some
or your
power in your
children.
reading. Put some energy in your reading. Come on. Verse 6 again.
First Kings chapter 9 verse 6.
Mm-hmm.
But if ye shall at all turn from following me, ye or your children, and will not keep my commandments and my statutes which I have set before you, but go and serve other gods and worship them.
You see that thing? But go and serve other gods and worship them. Next verse. Come on.
Then will I cut off Israel out of the land which I had given them.
You see that thing? The Lord will uproot us out of the land. Remember, it says Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles. It wasn't during the time of Rome only. It wasn't during the time of Greece only. It wasn't just during the time of Persia. It wasn't just the time of Babylon or Assyria. No. Okay, keep going.
And this house which I have hallowed for my name will I cast out of my sight.
Mm-hmm.
And Israel shall be a proverb and a byword among all people.
You see that thing? Israel shall be a proverb and a byword among all the people. So that's what we just read. He says, these people are barbaric. You understand? These are barbaric. They are barbarians. That's what we read in Colossians 3. Keep going. Come on.
And at this house, which is high, everyone that passeth by it shall be astonished.
That's the because remember, Jerusalem is a people before it's a place. Now they are seeing these Eurasic tribes. You understand? They are saying, listen, it says, and they shall answer at this house, which is high, because Jerusalem is the top government on earth. We are the top nations on earth. But when the people see us now in our simplicity, worshiping other gods, keep going. What will they say? Read. Everyone that
and shall
what?
hiss.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone that passeth by it shall be astonished, and shall hiss, and shall say, and they shall say, why hath the Lord done thus unto this land and to this house?
You see that in the house of Israel. Why has the Lord done this to this land and to this house of Israel? The 12 tribes. Come on.
And they shall answer, because they forsook the Lord their God.
That's the same thing we just read here in the book. You see that thing? It says, they are a people who have been abandoned by heaven. You see that thing? Read that again, verse 9.
First Kings chapter 9, verse 9.
Read.
And they shall answer, because they forsook the Lord their God.
Read.
Who brought forth their fathers out of the land of Egypt, and have taken hold upon other gods, and have worshipped them and served them. Therefore hath the Lord brought upon them all this evil.
You see that thing? That's why the nations were calling us what they were calling us. Why? Because of what we are reading here. Because we forsook the Lord. Now the nations that are passing by, they are saying, these are the people that have been abandoned by heaven. That's what we just read in the book. Go back to the book again.
Contemporary historians wrote of the tribes as barbaric, willing to eat raw meat and drink blood. Truly, said one writer, they are a people who have been abandoned by heaven.
Read.
The Chinese proved willing to pay tribute rather than risk attacks on their cities.
You see that thing? It says the Chinese prove willing to pay tribute rather than risk attacks on their cities. By who? By the Eurasian tribes. Read on.
Envoys were regularly dispatched to visit the nomads, who were trained from infancy to hunt rats and birds, and then foxes and hares.
You see that thing? We was eating garbage. Okay, come on.
Where the emperor would politely ask after the health of the supreme leader.
Mm-hmm.
A formal system of tribute developed whereby the nomads,
Okay, come on. We're given what?
were given luxury gifts, including rice, wine, and textiles in return for peace.
You see that thing? Because we was giving them help. We was giving, listen, although we was in our simplicity, but we were really giving them hell. You understand? Read.
For the most important item that was given was silk.
Was
A
what?
fabric was silk.
Was silk. That's why it's called the Silk Road, because the most traded fabric was silk. Okay, come on.
A fabric that was treasured by the nomads for its texture and its lightness as a lining for bedding and clothing.
You see that thing? It says, we treasured this thing. It says, it was treasured by the nomads for its texture and its lightness as a lining for bedding and clothing. Go ahead. Come on.
It was a symbol of political and social power,
Read.
being swathed in voluminous quantities of precious silk, and was an important way that the Chan Yu, the tribe's supreme leader,
Chan Yu was the name. Chan Yu was the name of their leader, the tribe's supreme leader. That's what they call him. Read.
emphasized his own status and rewarded those around him.
Meaning what? Whatever the gifts that he received, he shared them with his brethren. Go ahead.
The sums paid in return for peace were substantial.
Mm-hmm.
In 1 BC,
Now
we
are in 1 BC. 1 BC. Go ahead. Hold on.
In 1
One
BC,
second. 1 second. I believe there's somebody on the waiting list. Okay. Let me just admit them real quick. Okay, read that. In 1 BC.
In 1 BC, for example, the Xiangnu were given 30,000 rolls of silk and a similar amount of raw material, as well as 370 items of clothing.
Read.
Some officials like to believe that the tribe's love of luxury would prove its undoing.
So because guess what? It says they love luxury. You understand? These nomadic tribes, they loved luxury. Come on. One of them was silk. They love silk. Go ahead.
Now you have this fondness of Chinese things. One envoy brashly told a tribal leader,
Come on.
Xiangnu customs were changing. He said, China, he predicted confidently, will in the end succeed in winning over the whole Xiangnu nation.
So now you see what is going on here? You see what China was doing? China was trying to butter us up. The Chinese were trying to butter us up. Why? Because they were giving us silk and all of that. And one of them said, listen, this says what? Xiangnu customs were changing, he said. China, he predicted. No. It says, now you have this fondness for Chinese things. One envoy brashly told a tribal leader, Chan Yu. Watch this. Give me the book of Exodus, okay? Because this is what China was doing to these nomadic tribes with the gifts and all of that. Okay? Exodus 23, verse 8.
Exodus chapter 23, verse 8.
Mhm.
Thou shalt take no gift, for the gift blinded the wise and perverted the words of the righteous.
You see that thing? It says, thou shalt take no gift, for the gift blinded the wise and perverted the words of the righteous. And that's exactly what they did to them. Because that's why they ended up building they ended up winning that Kanzu corridor to ended up getting the Great Wall of not the Great Wall of China, but the Silk Road. They ended up having access to that Silk Road so that they can be able to do trade. You understand? But the major thing that was traded that led to the development of the Silk Road was silk between China and the Xiongnu, which is the nomadic tribes over there. Okay. Read the book now. This was wishful thinking.
This was wishful thinking. In fact, the diplomacy that maintained peace and good relations took a toll both financially and politically.
Meaning on China's part. Read on.
Paying tribute was expensive and a sign of political weakness.
You see what they are saying? It says paying tribute was expensive and a sign of political weakness. Go ahead.
So in due course, the Han rulers of China resolved to deal with the Xiongnu once and for all. First, a concerted effort was made to take control of the agriculturally rich western regions of Jiyu. The nomads were driven back as the Chinese took control of the Gansu corridor in a decade-long series of campaigns that ended in 119 BC.
So in 119 BC, so it took them 10 years to get access to the Gansu corridor, which was primarily dominated by the Xiongnu, the nomadic tribes. Okay, it says a decade-long series of campaigns, meaning what? Military operations that ended in 119 BC. Go ahead.
To the west lay the Pamir Mountains, and beyond them, a new world. China had opened a door leading to a transcontinental network. It was the moment of the birth of the Silk Roads.
You see that thing? It says it was the moment of the birth of the Silk Roads. So when they eventually defeated the Gansu, the Xiongnu nomadic tribes, that's when they created that what? It says it opened a door leading to a transcontinental network. It was the moment of the birth of the Silk Roads. So guess what? The Silk Roads began when? 119 BC. The construction of the Silk Roads. 119 BC. Okay, now watch this. Let's deal with the Han Dynasty. Okay, because I want to touch on that before we move on. The Han Dynasty. Okay, let's go back there. Don't mind the noise. People are just, overexcited. Yeah. Okay, read that part again. Moab.
The linking up of the steeps into an interlocking and interconnecting world was accelerated by the growing ambitions of China. Under the Han Dynasty.
Under the what?
Under the Han Dynasty.
Under the Han Dynasty, from what time period?
From 206 BC to AD 220.
Now watch this. Stop right there. So we're going to deal with the Han Dynasty. Okay? I want to deal with the Han Dynasty. Okay, read that. Slavery in China.
Slavery in China on Wikipedia. Slavery in China has taken various forms throughout history. Slavery was abolished as a legally recognized institution, including in a 1909 law, fully enacted in 1910, although the practice continued until at least 1949.
Go ahead.
illegal acts of forced labor and sexual slavery in China continue to occur in the 21st century.
Meaning unto this day. So it says illegal acts of forced labor and sexual slavery in China continue to occur in the 21st century, meaning unto this day is still going on. Because what they are trying to say is that 1 year after the World War, 4 years after World War II, they claim that they ended slavery, but they did not. It still continued because World War II was when 1945. Okay, this is 4 years later, 1949. Their claim is that no, we stopped there. No, they did not. Okay, come on.
But those found guilty of such crimes are punished harshly.
Okay, keep going.
The Chinese term for slave or nuli can also be roughly translated into debtor or dependent or subject.
Read.
Slaves in China were a very small part of the population and could include war prisoners, kidnapped victims, or people who had been sold.
So it was not a very small part of the population. They are lying on this one. Now watch this. Let's jump up. History of slavery in China by era. Start there. Ancient. Read that.
The Shang dynasty engaged in frequent raids of surrounding states, obtaining captives who would be killed in ritual sacrifices. Scholars disagree as to whether these victims were also used as a source of slave labor.
So they disagree. But guess what? They disagree because there are some writers, when they write these things, they're trying to hide the slavery that went down in China. That's when we're going over that article regarding the Swatis and the Zulus selling us in slavery, some different authors were writing to hide the information because they did not want to create tribal conflicts. Okay, so likewise, what you are seeing here, these different authors that are writing these different things, some of them, they are trying to hide the information, while others, they want to expose it. Okay, come on.
The Warring States period,
No,
475
jump down to the Qin dynasty, because that's what the one we read in the book. It pushed until 206, and from 206, you understand, you had the Han dynasty. Okay, read that. The Qin dynasty.
The Qin dynasty, from 221 to 206 BC, confiscated property and enslaved families as punishment. Large numbers of slaves were used by the Qin government to construct large-scale infrastructure projects.
Stop right there. To do what?
To construct large-scale infrastructure projects.
It says to construct large-scale infrastructure projects. Because remember, in the 7th century, which is 600, they began the building of the Great Wall of China. Guess who was doing that? Our people over there was doing that, because remember, China was expanding. So as China was expanding, remember now, during the 600, who was ruling? Babylon was ruling. Okay. As Babylon was ruling, China also was doing its expansion. So you mean to tell me that China and the Nebuchadnezzar didn't work together? Of course they did, because they were trading in slaves. Remember, we were slaves under Babylon, but the Chinese Moab was also an empire. You understand? Okay, read that part again. Large numbers of slaves.
Large numbers of slaves were used by the Qin government to construct large-scale infrastructure projects, including road building, canal construction, and land reclamation.
Read.
Slave labor was quite extensive during this period.
You see that thing? Is a slave labor was quite extensive during this period. You understand? And it wasn't, they're letting you know that it didn't only start during this time. You understand? It wasn't only during this time, but it says it was quite extensive during this period, because it started way before that. Okay? Watch this. You notice, read the Warring States period. Something I want to touch on that. Read that.
The Warring States period from 475 to 221 BC saw a decline in slavery from previous centuries, although it was still widespread during the period.
You see that thing? It was still widespread. Go ahead.
Since the introduction of private ownership of land in the states of Lu in 594 BC.
In what year?
In 594 BC.
In 594 BC. Remember, the Persians took over what year? In 539. 539 BC, that's when Persia took over. So during this time, Nebuchadnezzar was still in power as well. You understand? 594 BC, Nebuchadnezzar was still in power. So guess what? You see, it says Lu, which is a Chinese man, in 594 BC. So they were trading in slaves. And what was they doing? They were constructing what? They were building large infrastructure projects. Okay, come on.
Which brought a system of taxation on private land and saw the emergence of a system of landlords and peasants. The system of slavery began to later decline over the following centuries, as other states followed suit.
They said they followed suit in using slaves to build their infrastructure. Okay, beginning with the Han Dynasty. Read that now.
Beginning with the Han Dynasty, 206 BC to 220 AD.
Now, watch this. Remember what we just read in the book. It says beginning with the Han Dynasty, 206 BC to 220 AD. Go ahead.
One of Emperor Gao's first acts was to manumit agricultural workers enslaved during the Warring States period.
Hold on. So you see what he did? This emperor, he decided, you know what? He says what? That his first act was to manumit agricultural workers enslaved during Warring States period. We just read about the Warring States period from 475 to 221 BC. Okay? Keep going.
Although domestic servants retained their status,
read.
The Han Dynasty promulgated laws to limit the possession of slaves. Each king or duke was allowed to have maximum of 200 slaves. An imperial princess was allowed to have a maximum of 100 slaves. Other officials were limited to 30 slaves each.
Read.
Men punished by castration during the Han Dynasty were also used as slave labor.
You see what was going on during the Han Dynasty? Is as our forefathers was punished with castration. Is as men punished with castration during the Han Dynasty were also used as slave labor. Go ahead.
Deriving from earlier legalist laws, the Han Dynasty set in place rules penalizing criminals doing 3 years of hard labor or sentenced to castration by having their families seized and kept as property by the government.
You see that thing? They were taking families from them, that they were taking their children. Give me that in Deuteronomy 28 verse 32. They were taking their children. Okay. Deuteronomy 28 verse 32. Read that.
Deuteronomy chapter 28 verse 32. Thy sons and thy daughters shall be given unto another people, and thine eyes shall look and fail with longing for them all the day long.
Read.
And there shall be no might in thine hand.
You see that thing? There shall be no might in thine hand. Your sons and daughters will be given to another people, the Chinese. Do you understand? The Han Dynasty. Okay, jump down to verse 41.
Verse 41. Thou shalt beget sons and daughters, but thou shalt not enjoy them, for they shall go into captivity.
You see that thing? We're not going to enjoy our sons and our daughters growing up. We're not going to get to raise our children, you understand? Because they will go into captivity. Our children will be seized from us, and our fathers was castrated, their children taken from them. Okay? Go back to the article.
During the millennium-long Chinese domination of Vietnam, they kidnapped or traded people in Vietnam and used them as slaves in China.
Remember what we read, the article we read when we we're going over Moab. We read about the fact that in Vietnam, there was our people over there in Vietnam, the land of the Kunlan, the land of the Kunlan. So what you are seeing here says a Chinese domination of Vietnam, because our people was always over there till today in Vietnam. Okay, come on.
In the year AD, 9 AD, the Emperor Wang Mang
9 to 23 AD.
from 9 to 23 AD usurped the Chinese throne, and in order to deprive land-owning families of their power, instituted a series of sweeping reforms, including the abolition of slavery and radical land reform.
So now this Wang Meng, he decided, okay, I'm gonna abolish slavery. Let's see how far that went. Keep going.
Slavery was reinstated in 12 AD before his assassination in 23 AD.
You see that thing? He didn't like that thing of saying, no, I'm abolishing slavery. It didn't last long. So what you are looking at here, it's a slave document. Okay, let's read the small translation of it. Watch this, because what you're seeing here, this is a slave contract. You understand, of a child going to be sold. Now read the bottom of it. Let's see who is this. Who under what slavery was this? Read that.
A contract from the Tang Dynasty that records the purchase of a 15-year-old slave for 6 bolts of plain silk and 5 Chinese coins.
You see that thing? So this is during the Tang Dynasty. So the Tang Dynasty had a slave contract, a contract from the Tang Dynasty that records the purchase of a 15-year-old slave for 6 balls of plain silk and 5 Chinese coins. So this is a slave document here. Okay. Read.
During the Three Kingdoms period, from 220 to 280 AD, a number of statuses intermediate between freedom and slavery developed, but none of them are thought to have exceeded 1% of the population.
Blah, 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 blah. Read the next part. Tang
law forbade enslaving free people, but allowed enslavement of criminals and foreigners. Free people could, however, willingly sell themselves. The primary source of slaves was southern tribes, and young slave girls were the most desired.
Read.
Although various officials, such as Kong Kui, the governor of Guangdong, banned the practice, the trade continued. Other peoples sold to Chinese included Turk, Persian, and Korean women, who were sought after by the wealthy.
You see that thing? So now you notice here it says other people sold to Chinese, included other people that sold to the Chinese, included the Turks, which is the Arabs mixed with Edomites, Persians, and Korean women. It says were sought after by the wealthy, meaning those wealthy families that dealt in the slave trade. Yes, it's talking about them here. Read.
The slave girls of Yue were eroticized.
Meaning what? They became sex slaves. Okay. Eroticized meaning erotica. Go ahead.
Were eroticized in Tang Dynasty. Poem. The term Yue referred to southern China.
So now what you want to notice here is that during the Tang Dynasty, there was a lot of sex slave trade going on. You understand? The selling of our young sisters in China. Now, I want to touch on something actually. Early modern. Read that. The Song Dynasty.
The Song dynasties From 960
No. 960, come on.
from 960 to 1279 AD.
Read.
Warfare against the northern and western neighbors produced many captives on both sides, but reforms were introduced to ease the transition from bondage to freedom.
Read on.
The Hongwu Emperor of the Ming Dynasty from 1368 to 1644 AD sought to abolish all forms of slavery, but in practice, slavery continued through the Ming Dynasty.
So now I want to deal with the Ming Dynasty. You see, the Ming Dynasty, it says the Ming Dynasty sought to abolish all forms of slavery, which never happened, but it says slavery continued through the Ming Dynasty. But watch this. Now, I want to deal with Yasuke, because Yasuke, if you look at the time period of Yasuke, Yasuke was sold in the 16th century, which is 1500s. Okay, watch this. Yes. Read the article.
The incredible legend of the first black samurai.
So the incredible legend of the first black samurai, that's Yasuke. Okay, read that. Okay, Sister Chloe is really messing me up, yeah. Okay, read that.
When a 6-foot-tall African slave landed in Japan, he stuck out like a sore thumb.
Okay, let me read a little bit. It says, when a 6-foot-tall African slave landed in Japan, he stuck out like a sore thumb. This is Yasuke now. People lost all modesty and nearly caused a stampede trying to get a closer look. Such a sight was so foreign in Kyoto. He was one of the first Africans to ever arrive on the island that a powerful Japanese warlord ordered him to remove his clothes while a flock of servants tried to scrub the black ink off his skin. You can't make this stuff up. So in their minds, he was covered with black ink, not realizing that's his skin color. But this right here, this is some evil stuff, because there was already black people coming into China as slaves. So what the hell are they doing? Mockery. Okay, remember what he said. Give me that in Jeremiah. I want to show you the pride of Moab. Okay, they are very proud. Moab. Really, I do want Moab. Yeah. Oh my God, I want Moab on that day. Jeremiah 48 verse 29. Read that. Come on, Jeremiah 48 verse 29. Read that.
Jeremiah chapter 48, verse 29.
Read.
We have heard the pride of Moab.
Mm-hmm.
He is exceeding proud.
Read.
His loftiness and his arrogancy and his pride and the haughtiness of his heart.
You see what the Lord is saying? He says Moab is proud and exceeding proud. He can't help himself. That's what they was doing to our brother here, Yasuke. Okay, let's go back to the article now. It says he was one of the first Africans to ever arrive on the island that a powerful Japanese warlord ordered him to remove his clothes while a flock of servants tried to scrub the black ink off his skin. Little did the warlord know that the slave was destined to become the world's first black samurai. The samurai are among the most enduring symbols of Japanese cultural heritage, and few foreigners have ever claimed the title. But one unorthodox man stands out from the long lineup of noble Japanese warriors. The story of Yasuke may sound like the plot of a Quentin Tarantino movie, but he did indeed don a kabuto as history's only African samurai. That's a lie. He's not the only one. Okay, and I'm going to prove that. Yasuke was abducted from his home somewhere in Central or Western Africa or Mozambique, historians say, and sold to a Jesuit priest named Alejandro Valinano in 1579. You see that thing? This is the 16th century. So if you notice, the time period of the Ming Dynasty is from 1368 to 1644. So during this time, during the Ming Dynasty, that's when Yasuke was sold. Okay? Because remember, China and Japan, they are neighbors. And they were working together during the Silk Road slave trade. Okay? It says, Father Valinano went on a missionary trip to Japan and took Yasuka with him. According to the letters of the Portuguese missionary, Louis Fro, and the History of the Church of Japan, a 17th century book by Francois Solier, Yasuka was around 24, 25 years old, towered over the Japanese at 6'2", and had a skin like an ox or charcoal. You see that? Mockery. As if they've never seen anybody black before. Okay. So now, I'm going to deal with the Japanese thing here. Because they are saying that he was the first ever to come into China and all. No, that's a lie. That is a lie. Because remember, it's the Tang, the Ming, the Song, the Han, the Qin dynasty. They will bring black people up in there. What are they talking about? But watch this. Let's deal with the samurai thing. Okay? Because I want to show you that there were black people in China. So this thing that they are talking about is a lie. You see, these are some of those historians that don't want to really speak the truth, but we will speak the truth. All praise to the Lord. So now these are pictures, okay? When you look at these pictures, you see these are black people in China. Anybody see that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so look on top of them. You see on top of them, there's a chariot on top. Do you see the chariot on top? And on the right, on each side, there's black angels. Look at the black angels on the right side, on the right and on the left. And these pictures were these artifacts were painted during the Ming dynasty when our people was over there. You see there's angels on either side, black angels. In the middle, you see that there's a chariot right there. You see how they are wearing? They are wearing long garments, pitch black with beards and all of that. You see that?
Yes, sir.
In China. Now here's another one. Okay. This is a sister in China. She's wearing a long garment. She's got a head wrap and all of that. Really, really, the people that are joining the class now, you are really messing me up. Yeah, straight. Okay. So that's the sister right there. You can see still the picture, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So now, watch this. You see that? These are two black men. These are samurai. These are samurai warriors. You see how they are standing? This is martial arts right here. So what are they talking about and say Yasuka was the only one? No, he was not the only one. You understand? These are two black men. You understand? You see how they are moving? This is martial arts right here. You understand? Look at that. That's a black man right there. Look at the afro. That's a samurai warrior right there. You see, he's got a weapon in his hand. Just look at the way. Look at the stance. Look at the stance. The stance tells you these are warriors right here. Okay, in China. Look at that thing right there. Okay. Look at them. Look at black men. Look at them with the cornrows, afros. Okay. Look at that thing. Here's another one. Okay, you can see these pictures on top. These are whitewashed. But look at this. Look at the samurai man at the bottom with a sword in his hand. You see that thing?
Yes,
that
sir.
black man right there. Okay, in China. You see, that's a black man with cornrows on his head. That's the bust. Look at the bust. Here's another one. You see, he's wearing chainmail on his head. No, that's not chainmail. No, that's like a style. That's a hairstyle. You see that? That's some beautiful stuff right there. Here's another one on a horse. A Negro on a horse in China. Look at that. Here's another one. That's a Negro right there in China. You see how they are dressed up? And you see like they were all black men. Look at the foot of the one on the left wearing a maroon garment. You see on his foot, you see they were whitewashing, they were removing the black color.
Yes,
Anybody see that?
Yes, sir.
That's a black man right there. Look at that. This is a black man in China. Okay, these were the priests right there. Black people in China right there. Okay, but I just wanted to show you that when they say Yasuko was the only one, no, that's a lie. Because look at that thing. This was taken during the Ming Dynasty. Okay, Yasuko was not the only one. These are samurai men. There's more pictures actually. Okay. Okay, but that's it on that. Give me that in 2 Chronicles chapter 11, verse 22. Because they're trying to make it seem like this stuff, we only learn this stuff from them. No, that's not true. Okay, 2 Chronicles chapter 11, verse 22. Watch this.
2 Chronicles chapter 11, verse 22.
Mm-hmm.
And Rehoboam made Abiah, the son
Hold
of...
on. No, 1 Chronicles. I'm sorry, 1 Chronicles 11, verse 22. Read that.
1 Chronicles chapter 11, verse 22. Benaiah, the son of Jehoiada, the son of a valiant man of Kabzeel, who had done many acts, he slew 2 lion-like men of Moab. Also, he went down and slew a lion in a pit in a snowy day.
So now you mean to tell me that when we go to China, we learned about martial arts in China? That's crazy. Because what we're reading here says Benaiah. Benaiah was one of David's mighty men, okay? It says the son of Jehoiada, the son of a valiant man of Kabzeel, who had done many acts, meaning he was known for many acts. It says he slew 2 lion-like men of Moab. So we learned the stuff from China? No, we didn't. It says also he went down and slew a lion in a pit in a snowy day. Our forefathers is bad, okay? So this thing of saying, no, Yasuke learned martial arts, no, that's a lie. That's a lie. And they are pushing it so much in the media. Whenever you see Esau pushing stuff like that in the media, you must always be suspicious. You must know he's hiding something. You must research more. Then you'll discover, actually, it wasn't just him. It was, we taught them martial arts when we got over there. Because there were black Buddhas. So where did the black Buddhas come from? Okay. But I just wanted to show you that during the time of the Ming Dynasty, guess what? Yasuke and many of our forefathers in China, we was yes, we were slaves. Okay, that's why in that article they call us devil slaves, superhuman strength. Where did we get the strength from? The Lord, of course. Okay, we got the strength from the Most High. So that's why we was able to even dominate them, even in their kingdom when we were slaves. Okay, watch this. Let's go back to the article. Okay, I want to go back to Wikipedia because we're still dealing with slavery in China. Yes. Okay, read that. Read that part when it says the Hongwu Emperor. Hongwu Emperor. Yeah, read that.
The Hongwu Emperor of the Ming Dynasty from 1368 to 1644 AD sought to abolish all forms of slavery. But in practice, slavery continued through the Ming Dynasty.
So slavery continued through the Ming Dynasty. Now watch the next part. Watch this. Read.
The Javans sent 300 black slaves as tribute to the Ming Dynasty in 1381.
Now stop right there. The Javans is Java. Now these are the seed of Japheth. Okay, this is Japheth right here. It says the Javans sent 300 black slaves as tribute to the Ming Dynasty in 1831. Give me Genesis 10. Genesis 10 verse 2. Watch this.
Genesis chapter 10 verse 2. The sons of Japheth, Gomer and Magog, and Madai and Javan.
You see that thing?
And Javan.
So Javan is the son of Japheth. So the Javanese, okay, that's Japheth's seed. So they were also working with China to sell our people in slavery. You see that thing? And notice during the Ming Dynasty, there were black people over there, showing you that, you see, the people that write these articles, they are evil as well. Because you see, they says the Javan sent 300 black slaves as tribute to the Ming Dynasty in 1381. Remember, during the Ming Dynasty, Yasuke was over there. You understand? And all our forefathers that were teaching the Japanese and all of that, martial arts and all that, guess what? There were still black people. The Japheth sent 300 black slaves in during the Ming Dynasty as tribute. So when Yasuke arrived, they didn't know what he looked like. Remember, Yasuke arrived in the 16th century. That's 1570 something, right? But Japheth sent our forefathers in 1381. That makes sense? That makes no sense. Yasuke went later, but they sent the slaves in the 1300s. But in the 1500s, they wanted to remove the ink of his body. You can't make this stuff up, okay? Oh, they're going to pay for this stuff. You better believe that thing. Okay, keep going. Genesis 10 verse 2 again.
Genesis chapter 10 verse 2.
Read.
The sons of Japheth, Gomer and Magog, and Madai, and Javan, and Tubal, and Meshech, and Tyrus.
So now what you want to notice here, jump down to verse 4, because when Esau conquered Japheth's seed, guess what? He changed Javan into Greece. He said, you are not Javanese no more. Now you are Greeks now. Okay, read verse 4.
And the sons of Javan, Elisha, and Tarshish, Kittim, and Dodanim.
So now what you notice here is, this is the seed of Japheth, right? Give me Genesis chapter 9 now. Genesis chapter 9 and verse, Genesis 9 verse 27. Read that.
Genesis chapter 9 verse 27. God shall enlarge Japheth.
God shall enlarge Japheth. God shall enlarge Japheth. Watch this. Go ahead.
And he shall dwell in the tents of Shem. And Canaan shall be his servant.
So Japheth will live in our tents. Whatever Japheth owns, we would own it. But because during this time we were slaves, we was not ruling, guess what Japheth was doing? Japheth was selling our forefathers to China. He's going to pay too. He's not going to escape from this. He will pay for what he's done to us also. Okay? Now, let me see. But what I do want to do is no, I don't want to. Wait. Let me see. Okay, read that. Conditions of slavery in pre-modern China. Read that.
Slaves could either be bought and sold to their masters or inherit their role through birth.
Okay, read the top. Hold on. Read the heading. Conditions in what? Read that.
Conditions of slavery in pre-modern China.
Okay, let me read a little bit. It's the conditions of slavery in pre-modern China. Slaves could either be bought and sold to their masters or inherit their role through birth. You see that thing? You can inherit your role as a slave through birth or be sold after you've grown up, sold to your master. Okay? The majority of the Chinese slave market consisted of adolescents and young adults. So these were children, like we read in Deuteronomy 28:32. Chinese law stated that families could only sell their children. Hold on. So can a mother just willingly go out of their way, or a father say, I'm going to sell my children? No. That's what we're reading in Deuteronomy 28:32 and 41 completely goes against what they are saying here, because they make it seem like we willingly sold our children. It says consisted of adolescents and young adults. Chinese law stated that Families could only sell their children under the condition that doing so would save the rest of their family from starvation. Lie. Despite this law, the restrictions of human sales were rarely enforced. Rarely enforced. That's a lie. On some occasions, slaves were born into the family house by an existing slave, thereby becoming a slave under that household by birth. So you became a slave to that family by birth. Okay, slave contracts. That's what the one that we just saw earlier on. That was written by the Tang dynasty. The Tang dynasty. If a slave was bought from their birth family and sold, a slave contract was created by the selling agency or agent, more commonly known as people sellers or renfanzi. Today they call them what? Agents. You know those labor brokers? You understand? Your career junction and all of that. That's the same people. The contract stated the name of the person offering the slave, the name of the person buying the slave, the name of the selling agent. That's what they do today. You see that? The name of the guarantor, and the age of the slave, and how many years the slave was to work for the new family, which was typically around 10 to 15 years. Children. It also stated how much money was being exchanged for the slave. That's why when you're looking for a job, they be putting there how much you're going to get paid for this. Same thing. Nothing done change. The most contracts for slave girls had a clause that the master was to choose a mate for the girl following the end of her time working. You see that? So they turned them into sex slaves or bed wenches. After the agreement was made, the slave was then transported, cleaned, trained, inspected, and brought to their new master's home to start work. How do you think they were inspecting them? They would strip them naked. These contracts were often known as white contracts, meaning contracts meant for common goods as opposed to red contracts, which were reserved for more important matters such as land. Okay, let's see. Living conditions of slaves in pre-modern China. Slaves had a very poor living conditions with little time to themselves and a small living space, often shared with other slaves. So they put them in cages. They were confined to small mud or brick huts known as ukjai. Punishments and abuse were regular occurrences for slaves in China and could sometimes result in extreme permanent injuries or even death in some cases. Abuse was rarely reported or looked into, meaning they didn't care. The only instances where slave abuse was questioned was if the family or masters were under investigation by the police for another offense. After a master dies, his slaves are distributed evenly among the rest of the family members like all other property. You see that thing? Give me that in Leviticus 25 real quick. Okay. Leviticus 25. Give me Leviticus chapter 25 and verse 44.
Leviticus 25 verse 44.
Mm-hmm.
Both thy bondmen and thy bondmaids, which thou shalt have, shall be of the heathen that are round about you.
Read.
Of them shall ye buy bondmen and bondmaids.
You see that thing? So what we was doing to them when we was ruling, it turned around on us and they were doing that to us. Keep going.
Moreover, the children of the strangers that do sojourn among you, of them shall ye buy, and of their families that are with you, which they begat in your land, and they shall be your possession.
They shall be our possession. Go ahead.
And ye shall take them as an inheritance for your children after you.
You see that thing? It says we shall take them as inheritance for our children after us. That's what the Chinese was doing. Read.
To inherit them for a possession. They shall be your bondmen forever. But over your brethren, the children of Israel, ye shall not rule over one another with rigor.
So now, let's go back now. Male slaves. It says, due to the strict patriarchal system in China's history, boys were bought and sold for one of two reasons. to become an heir to a family with no son, or to become a slave. Males were always in high demand due to their ability to become heirs and their higher physical capabilities. Therefore, they were 4 to 5 times more expensive than female slaves and were only owned by the elite families that could afford them. Daughters and even land were sold before males of the family. Male slaves, Saiman, were given the hardest and most demanding tasks. After their servitude, male slaves were either released from the main house to survive on their own, or they could have marriages arranged for them if their masters considered them to be extremely loyal or hardworking. Those who were chosen to be married would be provided with an unlucky woman. Usually a person with disabilities or daughter of another slave. You can't make this stuff up. Oh my God, man. If a male slave had a son, his slave status was inherited and the son remained the property of his father's master. You see that thing? Now chickens are coming home to roost. It's coming back. We're going to do what they did to us. We're going to do to them here. Female slaves. Women slaves were distinguished by their marital status rather than what kind of work they did. Married women who were slaves were similar to employees. They were paid wages and were free to leave the family house when they were not working. Unmarried women called Binu or Yatu, however, were unpaid and forced to remain on duty at all times. Married women were acknowledged by their married surname, while unmarried women were given names by their masters. The children of a woman slave did not necessarily inherit her slave status, but there was a high possibility of becoming a slave themselves to avoid starvation. Oftentimes, women who found work outside of their family found themselves vulnerable to kidnapping, trafficking, and sexual violence. It says slavery exists in China, especially in Canton and Peking. I have known a male slave. He is named Wang and is a native of Kansu. That's what we were reading in the book. Okay, Kansu, that's the Kansu corridor. Those are Eurasic tribes living in Quechua, in the house of his original master's son and with his own family of 4 persons acknowledged to me that he was a slave, Nupu. He was a person of considerable ability but did not appear to care about being free. Female slaves are very common all over China and are generally called. Let's see. So the sisters were turned into concubines. That's what we're reading. You can read the rest on your own. But here's the thing. I want to touch on this thing. Let me go back to the book now. Okay? I want to go back to the book. Yes, the book. I want to go back to the book now. Okay, so read that, the orange part, read the orange. You know what? Read the blue highlighted part. Read that.
But many others were sent to where good money was paid for fine specimens, and nowhere was there greater demand. Nowhere was there greater spending power than the buoyant and wealthy markets in Atil that ultimately fed Baghdad and other cities in Asia, as well as elsewhere in the Muslim world, including North Africa and Spain.
You see that thing? So whenever there's a trade of slaves going on, Ishmael is always there. You know, Ishmael is number 2 on my list. Okay. It says in the Muslim world, including North Africa, okay, and Spain. Remember Spain, who was ruling over Spain? The Moors, until they were kicked out during the Spanish Inquisition. Okay, that's us, okay? Now jump down to the orange part.
Demand for slaves in these catch-rich locations was intense, and not just from those from the north. Huge numbers were imported from sub-Saharan Africa.
You see that thing? It says huge amounts of slaves were imported from sub-Saharan Africa. By who? The Arabs to China. Go ahead.
One trader alone boasted of selling more than 12,000 black slaves in markets of Persia.
You see that thing? So one of them was even boasting that they sold 12,000 black slaves in markets in Persia. Keep going.
Slaves were also taken from the Turkic tribes of Central Asia,
Read.
whom one author from this period notes were highly prized because of their courage.
Yes, read that. And resourcefulness. Read the one on top, the orange one.
Shalom, sir.
Yes, I can hear you. Read the top part. And resourcefulness. Their courage and resourcefulness.
Their courage and resourcefulness. When it comes to choosing the most precious slaves, noted another commentator, the best came from the land of the Turks.
He says the best slaves came from the land of the Turks. Hold on.
To the Turkish slaves among all the slaves of the earth.
Hold on. Wait. You see that part? It says the best came from the land of the Turks. It says there is no equal to the Turkish slaves among all the slaves of the earth. You know why this is important? Because guess what? This was the fall of Constantinople. The fall of Constantinople in 1453 by the Turks, by the Ottoman Turks. Remember, I keep saying, I've got Netflix now. Yeah, I got Netflix now. I got Netflix now. I can watch this stuff. You see here when it says, the best slaves were coming from the land of the Turks, the Ottoman Turks, the fall of Constantinople. You understand? Go to the orange part. The size of the market in the Arabic-speaking lands, Arabs. Come on, read the next orange part.
The size of the market in the Arabic-speaking lands was considerably larger, assuming the demand for slaves was analogous, stretching from Spain through to Afghanistan, which would suggest that the numbers of slaves being sold have been far greater even than those from Rome.
Because Rome was dealing in slave trade. Now, we're going to deal with that when we go over the Roman Empire. But what I want to show you here is that just as the Romans was dealing in slaves, the Arabs was dealing in slaves. But the Arabs were doing more slave trades than anybody else. You understand? Keep going. The next highlighted part, a caliph.
A caliph and his wife owning 1,000 slave girls each, while another was said to own no fewer than 4,000. Slaves in the museum world were ubiquitous and silent as they were in Rome.
Okay, read that part again, the highlighted part. A caliph and his wife. Okay, hold on. Let me read, okay? Seems to be some network issues. It says, a caliph and his wife owning 1,000 slave girls each. So a caliph and his wife, they would own 1,000 slave girls each, while another was said to own no fewer than 4,000 slaves in the Muslim world. Slaves in the Muslim world were ubiquitous and silent as they were in Rome. Meaning what? This was something that was not to be known, okay? I'm going to jump down to the next highlighted part in orange. Similar ideas prevailed with rich Muslims as later guidebooks to help with the slave buying process made clear. Of all the black slaves, wrote one 11th century author, meaning 1000s, the Nubian women are the most agreeable, tender, and polite. Their bodies are slim with a smooth skin, steady and well proportioned. They respect their masters as if they were created to serve. Women of the Beja people, whose home was in what is today Sudan, Eritrea, and Egypt, have a golden complexion, beautiful faces, delicate bodies, and smooth skins. They make pleasant bedfellows. You see what they was doing with our sisters? Okay, they turn them into sex slaves. If they are taken out of their country while they are still young. You see that thing? Because they took them out, they snatched them from their parents while they were still young. I'm telling you, Ishmael gonna pay, telling you straight. No doubt about it. Let me share my screen once again. Okay, let me see. It says so many were captured that the very name of those taken captive Slavs became used for all those who had their freedom taken away. Slaves. So slaves come from the word Slavs. Okay, that's another history lesson. Is the slaves were sent as gifts to Muslim rulers. At the start of the 10th century, that's 900, for example, an embassy from Tuscany to Baghdad brought the Abbasid Caliph al-Muqtafi a selection of high-value gifts, including swords, shields, hunting dogs, and birds of prey. Among the other presents offered as a token of friendship were 20 Slavic eunuchs, meaning 20 slaves eunuchs, and 20 particularly beautiful Slavic girls. The flower of youth from one part of the world was exported to indulge those in another. The engagement with long-distance trade was so extensive that when Ibrahim ibn Yaqub, meaning what? Abraham, son of Jacob, because that's what they call themselves, passed through Mainz, he was astonished by what he found in the markets. It's extraordinary, he wrote, that one should be able to find in such far western regions aromatics and spices that only grow in the Far East, like pepper, ginger cloves, nard, and kalingale. These plants are all imported from India, where they grow in abundance. That was not all that surprised him. So too did okay, that's it on that. Castration was thought to purify and improve the Slavic mind, meaning the slave mind. Better still, it worked, wrote the same author, though not for the blacks, you see that, whose natural aptitudes were negatively affected by the operation. Meaning what? We was negatively affected by castration because it's unnatural. So, so great was the scale of traffic of Slavic slaves that imparted the Arabic language. The word for eunuch, Siglabi, comes from the ethnic label referring to the Slavs, Sagalibi, which means slaves. Okay. Okay, that's it on that. That's it on that. That's it on that. Go back to Jeremiah real quick for me. Okay, Jeremiah 3 verse 2 again. Okay, Brother Haggai, read Jeremiah 3 verse 2.
Yes, sir. Jeremiah chapter 3 verse 2. Lift up thine eyes unto the high places, and see where thou hast been lying with. In the ways hast thou sat for them, as the Arabian in the wilderness. And thou hast polluted the land with thy whoredoms and with thy wickedness.
So now you are seeing this is the Arabs, you understand, working together with the Chinese. Go to Isaiah now 49 verse 12. Let's go back there again.
Isaiah chapter 49 verse 12. Behold, these shall come from far, and lo, these from the north and from the west, and these from the land of Sinim.
And these from the land of Sinim, because how did we get there? We was delivered over there. You understand? On slave ships. That's how we arrived over there in China and India and Persia. You understand? We arrived there because we were sold over there as slaves. So now today, our people over there in China, you remember during the corona, they say no, our brothers and sisters over there, they was the one that was responsible for the coronavirus. Okay. When we know China is the one that was responsible for this thing, working together with the European, we're working together with Europe and America. They push this thing in the earth. Okay. So, but what I wanted to show you, brothers and sisters, is that our history is deep. Even what I'm going over, I'm just scratching the surface with this. You understand? Because I know some of you got lost when we're going over the histories. It's fine. Just marinate it, meditate upon it. You're going to be fine. Okay. In the future, we're going to be dealing a lot deeper on these topics. Right now, I'm just painting a picture so that you have an understanding of what's going on. Okay. I'm going to end the class right here. I'm going to end it right here. Okay. Let's break bread. Give me 1 Corinthians 11, verse 23. Let's break bread. Come on, Brother Haggai, read that.
Yes, sir. 1 Corinthians chapter 11, verse 23. For I have received of the Lord that which also I delivered unto you, that the Lord Jesus, the same night in which he was betrayed, took bread. And when he had given thanks, he brake it and said, Take, eat. This is my body, which is broken for you. This do in remembrance of me. After the same manner also he took the cup, when he had supped, saying, This cup is the New Testament in my blood. This do ye, as oft as ye drink it, in remembrance of me. For as often as ye eat this bread and drink this cup, ye do show the Lord's death till he come. Wherefore, whosoever shall eat this bread and drink this cup of the Lord unworthily shall be guilty of the body and blood of the Lord. But let a man examine himself, and so let him eat of that bread and drink of that cup. For he that eateth and drinketh unworthily eateth and drinketh damnation to himself, not discerning the Lord's body. For this cause many are weak and sickly among you, and many sleep.
In the name of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, we pray. Amen.